Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's J-Man. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm J-Man, and it's just me. And today's episode is all about getting the once and for all dirt on the me and Danny situation. What prompted this, even though I said I wasn't going to do it, I didn't feel the need, I didn't want to stir the pot or get into a shitstorm of he said. So I was on Twitter, the old Twitter account for the show that he still runs, ironically, with a logo for the show that I came up with, and the old Twitter handle at WDWCI Podcast, which stands for What Do We Call It Podcast, which he's no longer a part of, and he will never be again.
Why?
And I have full ownership of, because the name, as I've said time and time again, my idea.
Oh, good for you.
So I happened to be on that Twitter, and then I noticed that he wasn't putting out any new tweets that I could see. But then I clicked on tweets and replies, and oh, lo and behold, he's been having this back channel conversation with this dude in the UK whose Twitter handle is at Bowman211.
Who the f*** is this guy?
Basically, Bowman asked him, why did you take down the Iron Order episode 18? What the fuck happened? And Danny's explanation of, well, there was a falling out between me and my co-host. That's also why I'm sporting a new name. I've got a new show coming out with a new co-host, and this show is going to be better. Let me just address a couple things here. So he calls me his co-host. I'm fine with that. It's just kind of splitting hairs. We were co-hosts, but that makes it sound like I was his sidekick, which if you knew our personalities, clearly not the case, because Danny's a little bit of a loner. I, honest to Christ, could not name for you any single person who was a close friend of his. And his new co-host is a guy he works with. Now, I'm not saying don't listen to his new show. It's called American Lifestyle, the American Lifestyle Podcast. I don't know where you're going to find it or when it's going to finally fucking debut, because it's taken him, 2.5, 3 months to even get out anything, and there's still no evidence that it exists. So he's either really busy, or like he told me when he said he was doing the side show, when he was still a part of this one with me, he's like, we're going to take our time with these episodes and let them cook and then put them out when I'm ready so that they sound their best. What the fuck is taking you so long? I could pass a series of kidney stones faster than you could put out one episode. So fucking do it.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
The second thing, the falling out with him and his co-host. Here's what happened. Danny and I were friends. I worked with his mom, and I had met him once when he was 14. And then years later, I reconnected with him because he was incarcerated in my facility. So I noticed his last name, like, hey, is your mom so-and-so? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I met you, remember when you were 14, dude? So we reconnected there. And then he got out, and we hung out a few times. My boss actually got an anonymous letter under his door one time saying that I was hanging out with Danny and 2 other inmates snorting coke at Danny's house, which couldn't be further from the truth because I've never done drugs in my life. So my boss was like, well, do you know any of these people? I'm like, well, yeah, Danny, but I've known him since he was 14. I've known his mom since I was 16. Do you want me to stop talking to him? Well, no, you don't have to do that. I figured this was just a revenge plot from something else. In and of itself, at my job, people try to get back at each other with revenge plots. My boss doesn't actually handle it like he should by taking the revenger to task. Years later, fast forward to, September, October, and he's like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. Okay. He asked me to do it with him. He sought me out. He wanted me to be on it with him because he liked my hot political takes, how I mix humor with my opinion based upon fact, which if you go back and listen to some of his stuff, other people have told me this. Now, this is not my opinion. He is your typical conspiracy theorist. He will spit out a bunch of shit he's heard and read, but then he doesn't really say what his opinion is. So he's basically giving you a half-annotated verbal bibliography of how other people made him have his opinion for him.
What's the significance?
I guess that's how it makes sense in my head. So he sought me out. I didn't go like, hey, does anybody want to start a podcast? I had been on a podcast before, It Radio, with Graham. He had me, years ago, numerous times. So I know what podcasting is like. I just had never done it in the format that Danny and I were doing it. And, once I realized how easy it was, I was like, oh, shit. Why did I not do this years ago? So that being said, the fallout was right out of the gate. I came up with that graffiti-looking green-colored logo for the show. And then he's like, yeah, you should do a logo in red.
Why?
Because everybody knows you do it in red because it catches attention more. Right. Everybody knows. Do what everybody else does. And ultimately, I've stuck with the red-colored logo, all of which I've designed, by the way, thanks to flamingtext.com, which makes it so easy. A fucking chimp could do it, but never Danny somehow. I don't know. He hasn't come up with a logo for American Lifestyle yet. I'm sure he's going to have somebody else draw it for him. Maybe he'll come up with it. I don't know. Fucking get on that, dude. Prove to me that you're so great like you talk about yourself like you are. Come on.
I don't get it.
And he was like, well, can't you just make a new one? I suppose I could, but I just came up with this one. I really like this one. Well, whatever you say goes, I guess. Oh, come on. What? Are you going to play the passive-aggressive guilt trip card on me like a fucking child, dude? That's dumb as shit. Girlfriends do that shit to their boyfriends. Don't fucking pull that. Fast forward to episode 12. What dreams may come. And once we transition from me talking about lucid dreaming to him talking about entheogens and DMT. And I made some jokes in there, like the one joke in particular when I made the crack about David Carradine and the autoerotic asphyxiation and dying, jerking off in a closet somewhere. He didn't like that, and he's always like, why are all your jokes about masturbating and poop? Because masturbating and poop are hilarious. There's two topics that I happen to be an expert on. Therefore, I know a lot about them. I feel comfortable talking about them. My humor is sophisticated, but also at the same time somehow symbiotic with the lowest common denominator. It's always how it's been. So we're talking about doing the entheogens episode, and I preface that we're going to do it next. After, us talking at the end of episode 12, and here's Danny. Well, I'll do it, but if you're just going to crack jokes the whole time, we'll fucking scrap the whole episode. We won't ever do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it right.
Whoa, coming in hot.
Before you go to episode 12 to hear that exchange, just know that I edited it out of the show because I didn't want it to seem unprofessional, like the honeymoon period was already over and we were squabbling over it, because I was like, why is he getting so fucking defensive? I'm not mocking his ideas. And I did the mature thing. After we got done recording, we sat and talked for 2 fucking hours. And I explained how I utilize humor to get points across because humor is relatable. And how do you get people to give a shit about topics that they don't normally go seeking out the information for? With jokes. You tie jokes into honest and unbiased information to teach people things, which is what we sought out to do with episode 13. But he didn't see it that way. He thought that if you make jokes about something, no one will take it seriously. Like if you make the usual pothead jokes, people will think that you're stupid for trying to have a opinion about marijuana having positive aspects or positive applications, which it does, and I've gone on record as saying many times, I think marijuana should be completely decriminalized. The war on drugs is a war on people, to quote Corporate Avenger. Google them. They haven't been around for a while. Anyways, so that was episode 12. And somewheres around episodes 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, and I think 18, we had all 6 of those waiting. We cut a bunch of episodes, and we didn't put anything out for like weeks, like 3 weeks. And this was a very contentious issue for me because I'm like, why are we sitting on these episodes? This is material that I put time into to edit and make sound good. I want to get out there. I'm proud of the information. I want to do it. He didn't see the point in just putting the episodes out on YouTube. He thought it was stupid because there's no video and because of all the time it takes to put them up on YouTube. Let me tell you something, folks. I figured out on my own how to, and with a little bit of research, not much Googling and a couple of websites, take an MP3, the episode when it's finished, upload it to a site. It changes it into an MP4, which is the format for video for YouTube, and then you just upload it to YouTube. So he was using this movie maker software and overcomplicating the process and getting frustrated and pissed off about it because he didn't want to do it because of all the effort involved. And I figured out how to do it in like literally 1/10 of the fucking time. It is so asininely easy. I scoffed at all the fucking hullabaloo he would raise over this. So I was pissed. It's like you're holding these episodes hostage. I want to get it out to the world. Which is why we all of a sudden had a Libsyn page. He's like, we should put it on a podcast site, that hosts mainly podcasts. I did some research. We came to an agreement. We did Libsyn. One day I made a new copy of one of the logos in purple. And he immediately hits me up on Facebook. What the fuck is that shit? I'm just changing it up for purple. Fuck purple and fuck Prince. Which ironically, if you look at the Twitter account at WDWCI Podcast, there's he retweeted some shit of a Prince tribute at the XL Energy Center. Guy who loves to share other people's opinions. Not so much his own. So, I changed it back, and I'm like, God, he's so fucking moody. So basically, over the course of all that, he's like, why don't you do something productive and get that Libsyn account going? Why did I have to get the Libsyn account going? I'll tell you why. Danny is a 32-year-old man who does not have a bank account. He does not have a check card or a credit card. He could not get a big boy account because he didn't live a big boy life. Sometimes you gotta be in the system here. That's just the way it goes, So I put it on my credit card. I opened the Libsyn account. I uploaded the first 6 episodes. Maybe I could have started back at episode 1, but I thought, fuck this shit. We'll backtrack. Every so often we'll release one of the first 12 or 13 episodes. I put them up, all 6 of the new ones right away. I used almost all the space we had for the first month's allotment. And it worked. We were getting views. One of those episodes was episode 18, titled Fuck the Iron Order. This episode took on an identity all of its own because Danny has aspirations of joining a motorcycle club, a.k.a. what most people in law enforcement call biker gangs. Don't call them gangs. Not everybody who rides a motorcycle is a criminal. I don't ride, a point that Danny felt the need to point out to Bowman211 on Twitter, saying, well, yeah, he's your typical blah, blah, blah. Wouldn't surprise me if he wanted to join the Iron Order. He's got no bike, he can't ride, he's arrogant and a crybaby. Yeah, that's wrong on so many levels. Just because I don't ride a motorcycle doesn't mean I couldn't learn. I just choose not to because I like being inside of a vehicle with 4 wheels. I'm less likely to get sideswiped by somebody and then lose my face on the pavement. There's nothing wrong with riding motorcycles. There is, however, something wrong with riding motorcycles and thinking that people that don't ride motorcycles are pieces of shit based solely upon the fact that they don't share your same love of the hobby. I mean, that is some straight up 4th grade girl shit. Well, she's played volleyball and we're on the soccer team, so Gretchen's a bitch. Fuck her. We don't like her. It's for all the times he's accused me of being childish and a crybaby and arrogant.
Why?
And I actually took to texting to ask people, am I arrogant? Because if you call me something and I don't think it's right, I'm going to ask for, solicited opinions of people that will give it to me honest because they know me and they trust me and I trust them back. Only one person said I was outright arrogant, and that was Rick James, and I think he was being a little tongue-in-cheek. JC said, well, yeah, you're kind of arrogant, but honestly, that's what I like about you the most, is that you are an asshole, and you give your opinion, and then you talk shit about other people's opinions in constructive ways that show the flaws in seeing things their way. I mean, you have an abrasive personality, but you're also a really fucking cool guy who I know has my back. This is true. You can ask other Neil. Back when I was a cop, I had to be to work at 6 a.m. one day, but he and his ex and their son needed a ride to the airport so they could go to Costa Rica. They had nobody. At 2 in the morning, I was driving them to the fucking airport, knowing I had to get up for work very soon. So, I stick my neck out for people. Shit, I just loaned 2 G's to my baby mama, to my kid's mom, my ex, because she needed it to pay off her lawyer fees to not go into credit card debt. Lawyer fees she accrued going to court to defend herself against the charges that ultimately somehow were dropped of domestically assaulting me and kicking my car. And then, in the back of the cop car, cussing out the cop and trying to kick out the window of a squad car, which is why they upheld the disorderly conduct, and now she gets anger management classes. Go fuck yourself. From now on, also, we will refer to my ex exclusively as
The Beast.
She is the Beast. That is what we will call her.
The Beast.
Episode 18, Fuck the Iron Order. All about the Iron Order MC, which is an MC which is strictly cops and correctional officers and ex-military and ex-military contractor, people of that ilk, a lot of type A personalities on that side of the law. But as we explained in the episode, a lot of these people like to pretend that they're a real MC when they're not, and they set up their MC without being respective to the other clubs that are in those territories, and they just go to swap meets, biker meets, all kinds of shit, and start fights with legitimate MCs, knowing that because the other MCs aren't going to call the cops, because there's that code of, you don't cooperate with law enforcement, that these off-duty officers, these fucking pigs, and COs that give COs a bad name, because I'm not that kind of CO, they start shit with bikers, assault them, sometimes kill them, and get away with it without any sort of legal recourse because they always claim self-defense, and because they're involved with that side of the law's on their side, and because it's an MC, nobody is going to jump quickly to defend a motorcycle club that has been alleged to have been involved in any sort of criminal activity or anything negative, which if you pay attention to a lot of MCs, a lot of them do some really good charitable work. So, the Iron Order MC can suck a bag of dicks.
Why?
Because they're awful human beings. Or that episode, Danny was super proud of it. He wanted to talk shit about them, and I guess you could say it was his baby, and ironically, it got the most views on YouTube by about 1,150 by comparison to most of the other videos. But Danny claimed that the reason I took it down off of YouTube, and he said this to Bowman211, that I took it down basically because I was jealous of how many views it got. I couldn't handle that it got so much attention, and I took it down because I couldn't handle it. Because it was, his episode and his ideas and blah, blah, blah. That's a quote, blah, blah, blah. The reason I had to take it down, one, I did it to spite Danny, but I more or less did it because I got sick of having to defend us in the comment section to people accusing us of being anti-military and disrespecting the United States military because there's military members or ex-military members in the Iron Order MC. Here's something you should note. Many branches of the United States military have banned membership in the Iron Order due to the fact that it gets involved in either criminal or semi-criminal related activities and has perpetrated violence against citizens. Citizens being the other motorcycle clubs that they both assault and wound and have killed. Danny's dad was a career military guy. I have friends in the military. I respect the military. I think the American military-industrial complex is a little inflated, and that we piss away too much money building planes that we don't need, because how many dogfights are there? You're just building fancier planes to deliver bombs that we may never drop. When instead you could be at home fixing infrastructure, building up the educational system, curing diseases. We don't need to go to outer space, all right? Why is NASA trying to go to Mars on tax dollars that I don't want them to use? Spend that money on a food shelf. I don't need to know if there's life on Mars. If they want to come here, they'll show up. I've seen Independence Day. I know how these things go. We just wait for them to show up, and then Randy Quaid flies an airplane into the butthole of their UFO, and the fucking thing explodes. And then that a happy ending, and Will Smith high-fives everybody. And President Bill Pullman is like, hey, all right, we fucking did it. So yeah, I took down the episode, and I really shouldn't have. I should have just put it as unlisted instead of deleting it, but there was something cathartic about deleting something he was so proud of. And then when I saw that, all the stuff he was saying to Bowman211, I started tweeting at Bowman. And Bowman was like playing go-between with me and Danny, because Danny wouldn't address me. And ultimately, Danny just said, he's not worth my time. Which kind of pissed me off, because I'm like, that's ironic considering how much time I spent editing the show to make you sound like you don't have a stutter or sound like a completely uneducated idiot.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating.
Seriously here, folks. The guy's got a stutter. He does. He stutters. It's fucking ridiculous. And the reason episode 20 is the last episode, and I've said this a little, is it's a hot mess. It's like 40 minutes of mostly Danny ranting about politics when we started talking about Obama nominating a new Supreme Court judge after the death of Anton Scalia. And it's a bunch of Obama hate from Danny. And before I ask him how he came to these conclusions, he just kept circling and circling. Like 4 straight rounds of him saying the exact same shit without any supporting statements, baselessly, and he all but called Obama a nigger. I'm pretty sure that Danny's racist because he said before how he doesn't see the problem in using the word nigger. A fairly ignorant and xenophobic mindset. if you can't figure out why nigger is not an okay word to call people. However, if you use it in a joke, it's humorous, but that doesn't make it okay. So, what I did is I'm like, well, fuck him. I'll put episode 18 back up. And I did. But to do it, it would have been out of numerical order on the YouTube page, and my OCD wouldn't let that happen. So I fucking deleted the entire 33 episodes I had up. And over the span of 4 days, I re-uploaded them all. All of them, plus one new one. 34 episodes in 4 days. I converted to MP4 and uploaded back to YouTube. And that's why you'll see all the counters have changed on the episode views to like almost nothing. Some of those episodes had like 20 and 30 some views. I basically flushed away 400 views. Or 500 or whatever it was. On top of the 1,200 and change from the Iron Order episode that I previously flushed away. Plus, when he redid the YouTube channel just for the show, as opposed to his own YouTube channel, episodes 1 through 4 had already had views. We lost those too. Whatever. It happens. So it's back up. And magically, the Iron Order episode, even though I've tweeted at legitimate pro-biker sources like the Aging Rebel, it's gotten 6 views. One of those views is me just checking the audio to make sure it's okay. And that you can manipulate the views on YouTube very easily, I have read. You watch your own video while not being signed in from different computers or phones. You just keep hitting refresh every so many seconds. And as long as you watch at least 5 seconds of a video, it counts. I am accusing Danny of inflating the views on episode 18 when it originally was up for the means of making it look more popular than it was. And in hindsight, he was like, oh man, look at the views. How many views does it have? How's it doing? Like he was really curious. It's almost like I didn't realize I was being baited and hooked. So I think he did it because he wanted to take the show in a less comedic direction where his new show is not going to be funny. He's going to discuss serious issues while they sit around smoking up. And he doesn't want people to know they're smoking up. You can hear them clearing a oney or taking hits and coughing, but it's not a part of the show. Because the American Lifestyle Podcast shan't include mention of the fact that they get high and have these, quote, other level conversations, as he said it, because he probably thinks that people won't take him seriously. Dude, if you're honest with yourself, if what you say makes sense, people won't care if you're smoking up. Willie Nelson says some really awesome shit. Cheech and Chong say awesome shit. Dennis McKenna and his brother Terrence say fucking awesome things or have in the past, and they've taken psilocybic mushrooms and the whole nine and experimented with chemicals. Timothy Leary, experimenting with LSD. People use substances and their creative output is taken seriously in lieu of the fact that people know they're using mind-altering chemicals. They're accessing a different portion of their brain. You see what I did there? I just tied it up with an analogy. That's what an intelligent, articulate person who's well-spoken can do, which he was not because everything that went wrong in this world or any sort of government mishandling or screwing people over, Danny referred to as fuckery. You'll now notice that the What Do We Call podcast is now 100% fuckery free because I got so sick of the word fuckery that I'm like, I can't do this shit anymore. I can't hear him say this anymore. It's driving me up a goddamn wall. So episode 18's back. It's not getting any love. Go figure. All signs point to him trying to inflate the numbers to trick me into thinking that people really, really wanted to hear about entheogens and the Iron Order, and we should take the show in a direction like that because it's so interesting. What that is called pandering to your audience. It's idiotic. I do what I want to do, the concepts I want to do, the guests I want to have, the games I want to play, the songs I want to talk about, the movies. Everything I do is because I want to talk about it. This is my show. I share it with people. I bring other people in so that we can expand the experience and I can hang out with my friends more because people get excited to come in. Number one fan, Tim. Neil. Other Neil. Nurse Ashley. The Dirty Bee. Although reluctantly. Come on the show. Graham from It Radio comes on Blumpkin and Friends. We have a blast. I put my 5-year-old on Blumpkin and Friends because I do this to entertain. I don't see myself as a fucking news reporter. I'm not out there on the streets trying to be this anti-disestablishmentarian who's, we got to draw attention to the issues and let's get back at the government. I guess I didn't realize it. I put the blinders on that I thought we could have a show where we address issues comedically, kind of like The Daily Show. You ever watched it? It's great. And he wanted to be serious and just talk about that. Fine, cool. That's why we're not together anymore, because we have different artistic aspirations. So I do my thing. Way back to why I alluded to the fallout was me telling him, dude, I can't work with you anymore.
Why? Why?
Numerous instances of him saying on the air or to people's faces in front of me, well, yeah, I suppose we could talk about it if we could shut J-Man up or if J-Man would ever shut up. Although he said he was joking. I talk a lot. I'm good at it. Sorry if you felt like you weren't getting your fair share of mic time, but instead of like lashing out that way and making snide little comments all passive-aggressively like a little girl on her period, maybe you should have fucking said it to my face, dude. I thought we were friends, but in reality we weren't. Because if we were friends, he wouldn't have had the attitude that he did. He would have been, open. So when I called him out, he's like, well, I don't like to bother people with my problems, but I've been going through some shit. And I'm like, excuse me? Well, I've just been going through some stuff lately. I asked him numerous times, never got an answer. Danny was trying to say that the reason he was being such an antagonistic dick is because he was, quote, going through some shit. Never told me what it was. I started to think that maybe he made it up as a quick excuse to try to dissuade me from my own opinion that had been newly formed about his attitude. I don't know if he was going through shit or not. I still like Danny. I think he's a cool dude, but we just cannot work together. It's one of those marriages that was doomed from the start, He didn't know what he was in for. And I guess I didn't know that he was so adamant about going in one direction with the show. But I couldn't take it. I couldn't take him holding hostage those episodes because I worked hard. I wanted to put them out there. I wanted to put smiles on faces and entertain. That's my joy in this, is that I get to put smiles on faces. He wanted to keep saying to the audience, well, you give us some more subscriptions and likes and this and that. And he was like basically trying to almost force the audience to give us more subscriptions to YouTube and stuff and Twitter to, quote, we'll put out better content if we get more subscriptions. No, thank you. No, thank you at all. I put out what I want to put out because I want to put it out, not because I need to please anybody. And I damn sure aren't going to hold the audience to a standard that they owe us anything. That's fucking idiotic. If you think that you can make demands of your audience who doesn't need to fucking listen to you because you don't offer them anything that they could use other than blowing off some steam and listening to something, maybe getting a chuckle, maybe getting some information, why would you think it's okay to do that? You can't do that. And I didn't want to, and that irked me. And then also, well, we were figuring out the YouTube versus Libsyn versus format shit because we had burned up all the free space on Podomatic and Spreaker and everything else. There's the Podcast Discovery Center. It's a group on Facebook that we joined because we were a podcast. So he started kind of asking people their ideas about using YouTube and how he basically gave a half-assed explanation and made it sound like I only wanted to use YouTube. Not the case. I just thought, why should we bust our asses for a pay site until we have more listeners? You can still reach people if you know how to market properly, and YouTube's the second biggest website on the internet next to Google. YouTube works. People said it's a good idea. Like 2 or 3 people said that you should never just rely on YouTube. And of course, because Danny's out there essentially airing our dirty laundry, making me look like an idiot, which I'm not, I had to come to my own defense, like, well, here's why this, here's why I thought that. We're sitting on episodes. I'm just like, this seems so high school that you're on a social media site with other adults trying to basically bash the ideas of your co-host just so that you can suit your own argument. And one guy said something about YouTube and Danny, he mentioned my name so that I'd see it. And it's like, this guy gets it. Yeah, YouTube's fucking stupid. No, don't. Once again, you're using other people's arguments to make your own point. Make your fucking point. Do you have ideas of your own? Or is the American Lifestyle Podcast going to be a bunch of entheogen stories and Iron Order stories and other shit talking about the news where you only just, so-and-so said this, CNN reported that. So, yeah.
You dumbass.
Great. How'd you get to that conclusion? Well, they said this. Cool. Did you research the other side of the argument? Well, I didn't have to. So-and-so said this, and I liked it. So obviously, I'm only using sources and talking about news media outlets that meet my agenda. Idiotic, right? So anyway, we didn't record together for 7 or 8 weeks, and then I said, fuck it. Yeah, episode 19 is the last episode with Danny. And I put it out without telling him. I wasn't going to do it because I was pissed. Because right away in the beginning, he made that crack about shutting J-Man up. And I'm just like, he said this too many times for him to not really feel that way, for him to not be pissed off or something. So in the interim of us not being together and the equipment sitting at my house, I cut an episode of the, what do we call it, podcast. And I recorded an episode with a friend of mine, Bergie, and I put it out. I also started Blumpkin and Friends, and I cut 3 episodes in one night. The first 3 episodes, all in one night. And I would have done episode 4 the next day, but Nurse Ashley couldn't make it. So then we're doing that, and then he kind of texted me after not saying shit for like 14 days, right? One text conversation about the movie Hardcore Harry, out of nowhere, nothing else. And he comes back with, we really should keep going with the show. I want to do it because I like doing it. I'm thinking, well, this is going to be rich. And then we get to talking, and he's saying, he's like, well, blah, blah, blah. He made some point about how he's got these aspirations to join the motorcycle club, and his motorcycle friends might not like him doing a podcast with a correctional officer. So right then and there, he drew a line in the sand, and I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you so hard. And then I told him, I'm like, well, here's what you need to understand. You're spouting off these political views against the government and shit, and I work for the government, and I'm not trying to lose my job because of your ideas and causes. You want to approach it, from a completely neutral position, fine. But, you made the Iron Order episode strictly to meet your own individual agenda. I did the episode on the death penalty for sex offenders, episode 15, and episode 14 about civil asset forfeiture to educate because I found it interesting because I kept coming across people at work who had been fucked in one way or another by the cops stealing their shit, and then the charges got dropped and their personal belongings were auctioned off before they ever got a chance to be charged criminally. How fucking stupid is that? So I told him, I'm the one taking all the risk here. I'm the one with kids and child support payments, and if I lose my job, I can't make them. Or if I don't have a job, I can't pay their medical and dental support, which I have a court order to do. So I'm taking a very noticeable risk here. And he's like, well, they might not let me in the club for being on a show with a correctional officer. I'm like, how fucking stupid are you? We're talking about my livelihood and my ability to provide for my family, and you're saying it's equitable to whether or not some guys will let you join their motorcycle club.
What are you, a dumbass?
Okay, no one's going to throw you in jail and make you look like a deadbeat if you don't get in the MC, dick toast. Whereas if I don't pay my child support or can't, and I don't have the medical benefits for them, I will be locked away in a facility similar to my own with my own tax dollars. Does that sound like apples to anybody listening to this shit? If you said yes, clearly you're speaking tongue-in-cheek, because only somebody that suffered head trauma would think that way. And that pissed me off. And then I dropped the whole Blumpkin and Friends bomb. He's like, oh, you're starting another show? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I already cut 3 episodes. It's awesome. And then he told me that he was going to do his show. So we were going to have 2 shows each and then work as like the Midwest Motherfuckers Media family. That was a short-lived idea because he just could not, for the life of him, get beyond that he's an outlaw and I'm a correctional officer mentality. That's not fucking fair because, number 1 fan Tim works on a signing crew. Is he strictly a signing crew guy? No, it's what he does for work. The facility I work at, let me tell you, I've said it before, not a prison. It's locked to get into the facility. You can just walk out. All right, it's minimum security. I'm not one of these COs, and I've said this, and not just because I have to. None of the inmates are going to come say, yeah, J-Man's a cool fucking guy. He's not like the other COs. I'm not. I don't see the need to go in there every day and fuck with the inmates incessantly just to make life harder for them. There are people that have work release privileges where I am at. I want them to keep going to their jobs so they can provide for their families, so they don't end up looking like deadbeats. Because if I lose my job, I look like a deadbeat. Even though I'm not, they're going to charge me with contempt of court, failure to pay ordered support. And it will be on a public website with my picture. And everybody will think I'm a deadbeat when I'm not. That's the way it is because of the Freedom of Information Act and the level of transparency that the government gives these days. They'll tell you who was arrested on what date for what crime and when they're getting out, and here's their picture. The problem is that a lot of those people are having their picture up with a crime that they've been charged with but not convicted of, awaiting trial because they can't afford the bail. The criminal justice system is woefully broken. It's kind of a topic for another episode, obviously, because I'm addressing the Danny thing, but just so you know, I'm a cog in a broken machine. It's a catchphrase I came up with years ago. The criminal justice system sucks, it's adversarial, and the government itself doesn't care about criminals, people charged as criminals who aren't criminals, or even their own employees. Like, at all. You fuck up, they'll throw you away like nothing. You're a number to them. I don't like my job because they don't have my back. There's no loyalty. 9 years I got in. You think they give a shit about me? Fuck no. They'd hear this show and go, well, we don't like what you're putting out there. You're fucking fired. You're abusing social media in a manner that we don't appreciate. Translation. They're afraid they could get sued because I say something racy. And instead of putting, support behind me and saying, well, we acknowledge that your free time is yours and that you've never identified who you are, where you work, or who your employer is, we're going to fuck you on a technicality and take your job. You're not eschewing the type of ideals that we like. And due to the fact that we're scared someone's going to sue us, we're going to get rid of you because that's easier than, doing what's right or looking for the truth or having a reasonable conversation about the technicalities of how you do what you do on your own time, and it never interferes with your job because you don't even talk about it at work. One person at my job knows about this show. Nobody else. All right? Because I can't trust a lot of those fucking people because they're only out for themselves. I said it before, I'll say it again. Type A personalities suck. The world is cutthroat, there's limited resources, and most people are only out to cover their own ass. There are people I love where I work. There are people I cannot fucking stand and I wish would go move to another planet where I work. Different episode. We're talking about Danny. So because Danny couldn't get over he wants to be a biker and I'm a correctional officer, it's basically what the mindset he got stuck in. And I just thought to myself, how small-minded is that? You have this criminalistic mind. It's like he has an outcast complex. I kept looking for, reasons to explain his behavior. Yeah, that's what it came down to, is he's got this outcast complex. He wants to fit out. And because I'm a part of, quote, the enemy, I'm on the wrong side of the line, he can't just be a friend. I don't care that Danny was convicted of felony burglary years ago. He was my friend. Not a very close one, but my friend. I enjoyed working with him. I go back and listen to the old episodes when I re-uploaded them, and I thought, God damn, that we were having fun. But then shit started to unravel. The wheels came off the tracks. And that's the way it is. So, it's not that I'm arrogant, Danny. I might be a little conceited, but I'm confident. I'm confident in my opinions because I've taken years to formulate them, and I state all the reasons that cause me to feel this way, all the conclusions I've drawn to get to where I'm at. And if sharing openly of myself is wrong, well, then I don't want to be right. He also accused me of being egotistical.
Why?
I talk about myself a lot on the show. Why? Why would I talk about other people? Other people aren't me. I don't know what's in their head, what they think, or how they came to be who they are or feel the way they feel. I know what I think and feel, so I talk about me because I know me. That's what you do. Danny wasn't sure how much he wanted people to find out about him. Okay, fine. He never told me, to his credit, never told me what motorcycle club he knows people in, or who knows if that's even a fucking real thing. I don't know. He kept the code of silence. Enjoy being a hang-arounder, whatever you aspire to be, dude. Fine, if we're not going to be friends, let's not be friends. I haven't talked to him. I blocked his number on my phone. I blocked him on Facebook. That's just the way it is. I can't work with somebody who can't communicate effectively like an adult. And for him to call me a crybaby for saying that he's a dickhole and I don't want to work with him, well, that's hilarious because I asked you a couple questions about the title American Lifestyle, and you came like unglued. We were having a conversation about how he came up with that name. I thought of calling the show The Hit List, which he originally said, oh, that's a good name. Hit list being that he's talking about political stuff and he's targeting certain groups and ideas. But also he said that they get high and have these other level conversations. See, it works in two ways. It's poignant. It's witty. He can call it whatever he wants, though. But I'm just like, I just don't get... American Lifestyle is so fucking generic. How are you going to yank people in? Like, What Do We Call It podcast is kind of like out there. People are like, oh, what the fuck? I guess that's kind of catchy. Maybe I'll check it out. Blumpkin and Friends is easy. It's about me and my friends. It tells you exactly what the show's about. Blumpkin and friends. The Reverend Johnny Blumpkin and his many, many friends. And we talk about life and whatever the fuck we do. And we play games and it's fun. And it's zany. So that's the way it is. All right? So for him to tell me that I'm arrogant when he can't get over the whole biker guy, correctional officer, that's hypocritical. For him to act like he's too cool for me, dude, I got questioned by my boss just for fucking talking to you. And I went to bat for us saying, I've known him for years. I did have to at the times offer up the caveat of, well, I'll stop talking to him, I guess, because I want my job. At the time, I needed a career, and I had barely been talking to him much outside of work after he got out. So at the time, we weren't close enough that I was willing to forego employment to make the sacrifice for the friendship. Years later, I'll stick up for him. But I can't involve myself with somebody that thinks like a criminal and acts like a criminal and just can't see the forest for the trees. One of the texts he sent me during the falling out when I cut him loose, when I said, dude, you're done, you're out. I'm taking the YouTube channel because I came up with the title. I changed the password on the Libsyn page, and he's like, oh, by the way, you're welcome for getting you into podcasting, you stupid cunt.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I've said it so many times. Graham introduced me to podcasting. You just showed me how easy it was. We sat down with Audacity on your equipment that you paid for, and we learned together. And I edited all the shit because I have a standard of quality that I have for myself. I wanted it to be so good to slap my name on it. And I wanted us to be taken seriously and not sound like shit. He said, I could do the editing. You could, but you don't have my same standard. Anyway, really, you didn't introduce me to podcasting. We learned together in the beginning. You sought me out. You needed me. I didn't need you. Fuck, the second I cut you loose, I bought my own laptop and all the same equipment in the span of like a week, and I had it delivered to my fucking house, and I was going like gangbusters right out of the gate. This shit ain't hard, so don't act like you're the fucking Socrates to my Plato, dick toast. If anything, you're the Winklevoss twins to my Mark Zuckerberg, because you had the idea, and I took it and ran with the bitch. It's so fucking facetious for him to act like, oh, he's not worth my time. Why? Because I'm a correctional officer and your biker friends don't think that's cool? Why? Because I talk about poop and masturbating and make fun of chicks, and you don't want to make yourself ever seem vulnerable or ooze any ounce of humility? Go back and listen to old episodes. Everything was maintaining that tough guy facade. He wouldn't take shots at himself, probably because he thought people wouldn't take him seriously. No, people don't take you seriously because there's like this idiotic mystique about you that doesn't need to exist. So, I mean, if anything, you were definitely the Art Garfunkel of this duo. So put that in your fuckery pipe and smoke it. I wish him luck in his endeavors. I don't wish him ill. I wish he'd stop using my show logo and the old Twitter handle. Which, by the way, my new Twitter handle, @whatdowecallit? How the fuck did we never come up with that before? And thank balls that we didn't, because I could use it, just like my new Twitter account for Blumpkin and Friends, @BlumpkinShow. Sometimes the ideas are so simple and stupid that it pisses you off you never came to the conclusion earlier. Like when I wanted to call the show The Midwest Motherfuckers. Yeah, that's my creation. And Graham said it was a swear word. Good luck getting on iTunes with a swear word in your title, which is why I came up with the What Are We Gonna Call It podcast and then the What Do We Call It podcast. That was all me, dude. I came up with that shit. That's why I still use it. That's why I'm not starting over, even though Danny basically told his mom I stole the show from him. Like, you didn't come up with like 85% of the topics, ideas, titles, any of that shit, man. This is my blood, sweat, and tears I put in here. That's why I'm keeping it. That's why it's still going. I'm proud of what we did. I'm proud of what I'm still doing. I want your podcast to get listened to. I want you to feel like you're getting a worthwhile benefit out of doing this shit. I don't need you to suck at life to make me feel better about myself. I only feel that way about a few people, and that's my mom and
the Beast.
I have had friends for over 20 years. I've had friends for over 15 and 10 years. I, like I said, can't name any of Danny's close friends. I grew up basically a single child because my sister couldn't communicate. Danny had siblings. His parents are fucking cool. His dad was in the military, and his mom was very understanding with her parenting. Also, they never made him go to church. My folks were Catholics. They browbeat me with Jesus. My mom was always using guilt and shame to teach me lessons, as opposed to having sit-down conversations that respect my intelligence and tell me why I should think like she does. And my dad just goes with the flow because he's passive-aggressive and he doesn't want to sleep on the couch.
Aw, bitch.
Okay, so there you go in a nice, neat little package, right? Danny and me didn't work out. I didn't want to work with him. Then he tried to take me back. I was cool with it. Then he kind of was being a douche again. I said, fuck this shit. I should have stuck with the original go fuck yourself, I'm done with you message. Happy ending for J-Man. Interact with the show at What Do We Call It? On Twitter, that is at What Do We Call It? You can find the show on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm J-Man. And that's the end.
I'm Danny. Yep. I don't really buy that. You know?
Buddy, fuck off! Are you fucking serious, you door climbing dickhole? Get down, fuckhead. Now you took me completely out of my element, you cat dick. Fuck off.